All right. Good afternoon, Savannah. This is your host, Razz, and I'm filling in for One Human Nation for Miss Sandy Battise, the illustrious Sandy Battise. She is out, couldn't make it, so I am helping out. And I have probably the best guest I could find. I guess I have to say that today, and it's my wife. So that said, show was pre-recorded. We're filming on location. So if you hear a stray cat in the background, if you hear a baby crying or a dog barking, just disregard that as, a little bit of background relaxing music. But anyway, all right. So, hey, Ann, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
We are in an interracial marriage, and we're just going to talk a little bit about that and how just how our world is a little bit different, or how we think our world is a little bit different, and how marriage is a little different being interracial. And because I know it's kind of a hot topic, kind of always is, has always been a hot topic ever since, Black people have been free. So,
or maybe before,
right? Yeah. So
our daughter's got blue eyes, so we know there's stuff that was happening probably way back in the day.
Mm-hmm. So, first question, I guess, Ann. What do you think about being in an interracial marriage? Like, what are your thoughts on it? How are things different? What would you change?
I don't know if I'd change anything. I think most of the time, actually, I don't notice it. Most of the time, I don't know that, or it's not in the forefront of my mind. Sometimes when I'm out and about and we're together, or I have the kids and somebody says something, it'll come to my mind. I think the most time I notice it is when I meet somebody new, and I guess from any race, I meet somebody new and I have to talk about my family and talk about you specifically, not so much my kids maybe, but you specifically, and not knowing what their opinion is of an interracial marriage. Mm-hmm. And their opinion of me. Obviously, I'm blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm a typical white girl. Mm-hmm. So, when somebody asks me about my family or about my husband, I have in the back of my mind, my first thought is always, he's Black. And how am I going to bring up that topic? Most of the time I do it with pictures. I say, oh, this is my husband. And they're like, oh, he's Black. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I get... Like the hardest part, like it doesn't bother me. I usually try and say it that I'm in a interracial marriage at a certain point. Once I realize I'm going to talk to this person again,
yeah, definitely.
that way they don't slip and say something racist, and then I have to bring it up in a different kind of way.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's not even just racist. If they're going to say something ignorant,
right? Yeah, I guess that's a better word.
Yeah, because I see racism, and this is probably some of my white privilege, but I see racism as when you have intent to be hateful. But I see a lot of ignorance all the time. People make comments, say this, say that. They talk about a stereotype mm-hmm. of a certain group of people. And I don't really see that as racism necessarily, because a lot of times it doesn't have hate behind it. It's just ignorance a lot of times. And so, but it's very uncomfortable after somebody's made an ignorant and or racist comment to then keep a straight face or continue the conversation. Yeah.
One perk that you always tell me about being married to a Black person, you get like an unofficial Black card. What you tell people,
yeah,
like what you tell Black men and women that your husband is Black. They treat you a little bit differently.
Yeah, especially Black women.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you get that the whole face changes.
Yeah,
as soon as, especially so now it's funny, right? Because we have kids. Before I'd have to slip it in and show a picture or whatever. Now I can show a picture of my kids.
Yeah,
and then they're like, they give like this now. You can't see it on the radio, but a side eye. Yeah. So before it was like a surprised eye when it was just me and you. And I had a Black husband, then you get a surprise face. But now it's this side face, like, oh, I think that's a mixed kid. I'm mm-hmm. pretty sure that's a mixed kid, but what's it mixed with? And they're not quite sure. And then, you tell them, like, you confirm, yes, it's a Black and white child.
Yeah.
And then you get like a head pop, like, okay, I got you now. You get a half of a card. But it does. It changes a lot of people's demeanors around me. It changes the way they interact with me.
Yeah, I never know when to bring it up. I don't know if I get an extra perk. I don't think I do. I think I get more of a perk when I tell people that you're a pharmacist versus that you're white. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, when I say like you're a pharmacist, like, oh well, you married a smart woman. You know, it's not. Versus if I say you're white, they're like, oh, and it's just, you know,
that's the end of the conversation.
Yes, end of the conversation. Yeah.
Never the end of the conversation. It's always the start of a conversation.
I guess so. Yeah.
For me.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times, because a lot of people get curious. I don't know if they just think that it's more appropriate because I'm a woman and they can ask me whatever they want versus you being a man. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either. But it always kind of ends. I don't know. But I wish we would ask me more sometimes because I want to say more about it, I guess. Well, I guess this is the platform. Thank you, Sandy. I guess the issue is that for me, like one of the biggest issues is I'm always, when people see us out in public, I wonder if they're thinking that I hate black women. Because there's some black guys like that. Some black guys are like, I would never, and I think it's stupid, but some black guys will actually say that I will never, like I'm just not attracted to black women. And I just never understood that because I'm extremely attracted to black women. Like I love my mom, you know, so I love my sisters, you know, like I'm extremely attracted to black women. And I just, I mean, that's pretty much all I dated before you. But I just, you know, we just clicked, fell in love. I trusted you. Your family was awesome. And it worked.
I'm the opposite. I'm not attracted to white men at all. I've always been attracted to darker skinned men, whether that be Latinos or light skinned black men. Mm-hmm. Just that caramel color of skin is what I've always been attracted to. Mm-hmm. So I guess I've dated white men in the past, but I guess I was maybe attracted to their personality, but physically I'm more attracted to non-Caucasian males.
That says a lot about you.
No, it doesn't.
No, I don't know. I don't know. All right. Cool. What else? What's on your mind? You don't have to wait on me to ask every question.
I guess that one thing that we've talked about before, and I think people from both races or any race, if they're not in an interracial marriage, they don't get to have the conversations that we have about race. Mm-hmm. Because we can have a very candid, open relationship in our own home about if I see something on the news, you know, I watch the news all the time. And especially, you know, you start out the show saying this is a hot topic, and I think it is. And I think we get the advantage of I get to go home and I get to say sometimes in words, like I said before, ignorant words that I don't know the right way to say it. And I get to ask you, what is this or what is that? I think that's something unique about being in an interracial relationship is that I have a deeper understanding, I think, than a lot of people of what's really going on and how do you see it from the other side. I think that's hard, right? Mm-hmm. So we've talked more in the past about white privilege and what that means, and I don't think a lot of people really truly understand what that means. Yeah. But I think I probably have at least a little bit closer of an understanding because we're able to have those conversations. Yeah,
yeah. And I don't know. I mean, and honestly, I've come more to the side of like there is a privilege for white people in this country, just a little bit, because it's a little bit easier to get a job if your name is Ann versus Razz. It's a little bit easier to, get out of court or not be pulled over by a police officer or not get a speeding ticket if you're a white female versus if you're a black male. But like I've learned a lot from you too, because I've seen how hard you had to work to get where you are. So there's like you've put in like you're trying to get to the top of your industry. You're very close to being at the top of your profession. I mean, you do a lot of things. You graduate at the top of your class, all these awards. You're an achiever, but you know what I'm saying? And I just seen how hard you had to work. So it's not like you just got here because you're white. And I know that that's a fact for everybody. You know what I mean? At the same time, like white people have to work extremely hard too to get to the top of where they want to be, you know? And I've learned that from you. Like I've seen how hard you work. So now when I see a white person at the top, I don't think it's just because they're white. It's not just the man. It's not just that. They've clearly had to work extremely hard to get where they to get where they are, to get where you're trying to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think, no matter what race you are in our country, it's about working hard. It's also about being in the right place at the right time sometimes. I think it is about race. There's definitely evidence out there that suggests it's about race, and race does give you an advantage. So you can't ever take that piece away. There's always that advantage there. But it doesn't mean that they didn't work hard. It just means they worked hard and they had the advantage.
Right.
I guess.
Right.
And to that point, I look at my colleagues differently, especially if they're from a different race. I think about, when I'm in a group situation or when I'm, working with colleagues, am I about to get a privilege because of the color of my skin, or am I about to get a privilege because of how hard that I worked? It gives me an appreciation. It makes me think about inclusion a lot more. How do I make sure that I don't get an advantage that I shouldn't otherwise be getting? And how do I share my privilege with other people? Because I can't not have my privilege, right? I can't give my privilege away. I can't change everybody else's perspective on race. But what I can do is make sure that I do everything in my power to make sure that when I make a decision or when I'm working in a group, that recognition is fair. And if I see that it's not fair, I call that out and I say, so-and-so worked on this with me. They deserve the recognition as well. So if somebody else is working just as hard as I am, they're from a different race, just making sure that when the accolades come out, that it's fairly given.
Yeah. True. I mean, and yeah, it's definitely a privilege. I mean, like, America is a country built by, like, British aristocrats for themselves. For a British, what I'm saying, for, like, wealthy white people. It's a country built by wealthy white people for wealthy white people. Nobody attacked me for saying that, but because it's true. So that said, like, if you want to get ahead, like, no matter what race you are, you just have to learn to play the game. Like, it's not really built for poor white people either. It's not built for any other race. So in my opinion, like, America's a game. You just got to kind of learn how to play it in a lot of ways. And in order to get to the top and get where you need to go, you have to learn how to speak and move and act a certain way. Now, that's not saying be somebody you're not. Like, that's not saying be somebody that you're not. It's just saying that you have to realize that it's just a game to be played if you want to be successful.
Is that why you married me?
No. No.
What do you think about our kids and the way our kids are going to grow up?
I don't know. I think they're lucky because they're cute.
They're really cute. We have really cute kids.
Yeah, I think they're lucky because they're cute. And, like I said, once again, in America, you'll be more successful the more attractive you are. If you work hard and you're attractive, you got a step up on the game, unfortunately.
That's true.
But fortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about our kids. I mean, we're in the South. We are. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
Honestly, I've struggled a little bit with, our little man, our son, 5 years old, is in kindergarten this year. And for the first time, I thought about him being black, which is hard because in my eyes, he's white or just doesn't have a race, I guess. I don't see, we've talked about this before, I don't see color as easily as other people do. So it's hard for me to identify him as black or identify him as white. But I think him being in school and everything that's going on has helped me or made me see that he's black.
So I kind of understand what you're saying. I mean, I've always thought of him as being black because, just growing up, one of my best friends is mixed, and I've always thought of him as being black. Quan,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's society seeing him as black.
Yeah.
That is different. I know how to conquer this world being a white woman, but I don't know how to navigate the world being a black man.
Yeah.
Or for that matter, being a white or being a black. Jeez, getting all confused. Being a black woman for our daughter.
Yeah.
So, just not knowing how to how to teach them to navigate.
That's true. Yeah, it is hard to like try and navigate like being, but you can't. You know what I mean? You just gotta do the best you can do. You know what I mean? Like you can't try and be another race or try and be another race for your kids. Like you have, mother-in-law that you get along with tremendously on my side of the family. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like aunts and uncles and a grandfather that are black that know how to navigate being a black woman. You know what I mean? So you have help. You have friends who are black.
Yeah. It's just that mother in me. You know, I want to be the one to guide and to show and all of that, and realizing that this is an area that I don't know anything that I can do. I haven't experienced it myself. And I guess you're right. You know, there's always going to be experiences that they're going to be able to have to go through that I haven't gone through myself. But knowing it is a hot topic, knowing it's always going to be probably a hot topic, and it not knowing when it's going to come up, you know, and thinking about the teacher's perspective, the administrative perspective, the everything perspective. You know, when I see in the news black men being shot and killed for essentially probably being black, right? The guilty because of the color of their skin,
right?
Automatically, to think about my son being put in that position one day, or my daughter being put in that situation one day, it's hard. It's hard for me to understand because, like you said earlier, I got a speeding ticket because I cried a little bit. And was there privilege to that? Probably, absolutely, right? With that same officer, and that actually happened recently. It was a black officer. But the reality is, even he knows, and he probably recognizes the fact that I have white privilege, and I'm probably going to let her off just because, you know, maybe it's because of the color of my skin. Maybe it's because I was crying. I don't know. Yeah. But knowing that my son one day could be one of those men that he had a hoodie on, or he made a move the wrong way. And for people to automatically think when they look at him, and, you know, when I look at him, I don't see that at all. Yeah. I don't see that piece. Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree. You know, I tried crying one time. It didn't work.
Well, you cry about a lot of stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, you keep saying white privilege. I don't know how I feel about that word, because I don't know, like, what can you do about it? There's nothing. Anyway, nothing. I don't know. So I guess I'll throw out another disclaimer, is that we're not saying this to say that we know everything. Like, we're not experts in black people or white people. We're just telling you that, you know, these are just experiences that we're trying to relay from life. Like, we're not experts. We're not trying to change anybody's point of view. We're just trying to give you a little bit of our life, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
You know?
And from that, you know, this is our life together. So, you know, our opinions are molded and shaped between the two of us, but they're also molded and shaped by society and things that we read and that we see and things that happen. So, you know, to think that headlines don't matter or aren't important, that media doesn't have an impact, it does. It makes me think about the way that I think about you, the way I think about kids, the way that I think about myself, the way I think about the world around me. So, you know, I try and see all different sides of media, right? We've talked about that before too, how you tend to go to the media that most reflects your own beliefs, and then your own beliefs get more solidified, and that creates division. So, you know, sometimes I try and put on some opposite of my perspective and see what that looks like and what that feels like, and it's very uncomfortable. But
yeah, it's called confirmation bias.
Yeah, confirmation bias. Yeah. So, you know, I think some of what I do and what I say is definitely confirmation bias. Because I'll watch something happen to you and I'll say, oh yeah, I saw that on the news. That must be a truth. But is it truth? I can't definitively say, right?
Yeah. And I feel the same way. That's why I don't watch the news. And that's why I like doing these interviews, like on my show, Savannah Business Showcase, where I interview people from all different backgrounds, of all different ages, all different races, colors, creeds, everything. and that helps me break out of my confirmation bias, because some people are very like just faith-based, where, you know what I mean, you can tell that they're really strong Christians. Some people just say they're Christians and don't really act like it. You know, then some people say like, it's just so many different, like, because I was having like a faith crisis for a little while, right, where just not knowing what I believed in. So just not being in that place where it's a confirmation bias and being able to get a broad range of perspectives helps a lot. And the same thing goes for race, you know. So I try and have friends of all shapes and sizes, race, creeds, and
So my question was about how our relationship is different now versus when we first got married. What do you see as some differences?
A big difference for me is that I don't notice it as much when we first got together. Like, I came out of college, born into a home of 6 black women, strong-willed black women, in the ghetto, in the hood. Went to a church that was all black. Then majored in African American studies in college. Joined a fraternity where most of my brothers were black. You know what I'm saying? So like, I see color pretty hard, and so I didn't notice it. I don't notice it as much now. Like, now, I don't see the race or the color of you or of our kids, and maybe I've just gotten good at it, but I don't even notice anybody looking at us anymore. You know, mm-hmm. I just go about my day. Yeah. You know, whenever we're out together.
Yeah, I think that's very different from when we first got together, though.
Mm-hmm.
Overcoming the challenges. I mean, any relationship, right? You're gonna have differences, and you're gonna have to overcome some differences. But for us, I feel like they were huge differences.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, like you said, you grew up essentially largely surrounded by black people. I mean, I know you had some very close white people, and
mm-hmm.
Your sister had some white friends, and you had a mixed friend. But really integrating and having white people be part of your everyday life wasn't the norm for you, right?
Yeah, except for school. You know, I was in the smarter classes, so, you know, I was surrounded by mostly white people there. It was like me and one other guy. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I guess same for me, right? Like, I grew up in mostly white surroundings.
Yeah.
I guess there was a little bit of something here and there. I guess I've pretty much most of my life had at least some friends from different backgrounds, and especially when I got into high school and then college, like, all my friends were of different races. But my home life, for the most part, was white, right? Adopted black cousins, mm-hmm. I guess, but they were adopted and then
far away at the same time.
And far away, yeah. So I know that was huge for us, though, those first years, not even months, years of your family trying to understand me and trying to understand my lifestyle.
Yeah. And what to feed you.
What to feed me. Yeah.
Get-togethers.
Yeah. That was always the question. What does she eat? How does she do her hair? That was one of my first memories, though, of meeting your family, is your niece, actually.
Yeah.
Our niece now, but at the time, she was your niece.
Mm-hmm.
And she was mesmerized by my hair being so straight and
really
soft. Do you remember that at
No.
your sister's place?
No.
Yeah. She spent the whole time just playing with my hair, and your sister had to keep pulling her off. She was trying to braid it. I've asked her, now she's in high school now. Not that long ago, I asked her about that, and she gave me a little bit more insight. She just said, that she loves to do hair, and she just loved the feeling of it being and soft and being able to play with it without, having to comb it or do anything, and just be able to braid it so easily.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. I remember like going to meet your grandparents for the first time and nobody could understand me.
Well, that's because you have a southern accent.
Yeah, I guess so. But I don't feel like it's super southern even for down here.
No, I remember my grandfather. He'll make off-colored comments. Again, not that I think he's racist, but he's definitely, in terms of race, ignorant, and doesn't know how to say things to not sound ignorant. And I remember just being really, really terrified that he would say something that, for one, he would say something. For two, that you would hear it.
Yeah.
And your response to what he would say, and I was scared.
Yeah. No, your family was great. As far as, I mean, like, except for the food, you know, I could have brought some pork or something up there, you know, some bacon and some butter, and just threw that on some of the stuff. But I'm just joking. The food was great too, just in case you guys are listening. But yeah, no, your family was great. Your family was great. I didn't feel any kind of, and I don't know, maybe it's just just because it was the Midwest, like it just, you know, like everybody was just extremely nice, welcoming, and I felt comfortable being around your family. And that was a big reason why I married you, because I did like your family, and they seemed genuine, and not like the fake kind of nice, you know what I mean? But it felt like a genuine niceness to them and welcomingness to them. So I really appreciated that. But yeah. I see what you're saying. Even if he never made a comment, I don't think he would have, especially after he met me and we kind of clicked a little bit, as much as possible.
He still makes comments.
Oh, well.
Do you not hear them?
No.
Oh.
I mean, maybe not. I guess it's nothing I wouldn't make myself, you know.
That's true. I guess, speaking of Midwest, too, I think that's a difference in the way that I was probably raised. I wasn't raised in the South. I was raised in the Midwest. And we've talked about this before, that race in different areas of the country, different areas of the world is much different. And the way that you see race is completely different based off of, you know, where you grew up. Actually, I had a conversation with one of my coworkers recently, a black coworker, who also grew up in the, I don't know, probably Northeast or something. And we were talking about, you know, kind of the same conversation about race, about interracial relationships. Mm-hmm. And she surprised me and said kind of the same thing, that it's difficult for her to see color. And I shocked look, what? What do you mean it's hard for you to see color? I mean, you know, anytime I really talk to somebody who's black and from the South, it's ingrained, it's automatic, you know. But for a black person from a different area to say that, and to be able to express in the same feelings that I have, was really weird. Mm-hmm. Exciting, but weird.
Yeah, and that's crazy, because I see color everywhere, you know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I guess I don't even know what that. We would need somebody that's an expert here to like explain what that means to see color, so we can really talk about it. But I see it, but I don't judge people, you know, or I don't apply a stereotype to a person just because of their color. But I definitely see it. You know, if I'm walking through a grocery store and I see another black person, I do the black person head nod. If we're surrounded by like just a sea of white people, or if I'm at an event, I do that. But it's not because, you know what I'm saying? But then I'll do the same little head nod. I don't know. Like I see color, but I don't judge people because of it. I wait till I meet the person, and then I see if we can be friends or associates, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Cordial with each other. Yeah, cool. So we said we're going to talk about interracial marriage. So what's another question? What's a, you know what I wish?
What do you wish?
I wish.
It scares me to ask that question. What do you wish?
I wish that whenever interracial couples walk by each other, we give each other high fives. I know I've told you that before. but like, whenever I walk by an interracial couple, like, it could be the same black guy, and he would say, you know, notice me and give me a heads up. But if we're both walking with wives or girlfriends of another ethnicity or race, then we won't even make eye contact. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
Oh, I smile every time. I can't help it when I see an interracial couple. I smile and I go, ooh. Yeah. I think I get excited because I think like, oh, I'm not alone. There's somebody else who might understand a little bit of what it is to be in an interracial relationship. I gravitate towards them, you know. Not that like I only want to have interracial friends or interracial friend couple things, but I get very excited when I see it.
Yeah, not the guys. They won't even make eye contact. It's funny. They just keep walking. Anyway, yeah, cool. What else? What else? I don't know. I don't know where you're taking this.
I think it's hard to actually have a conversation about interracial marriage now, because we've been married for so long that it just feels like marriage now. It doesn't feel so interracial. It definitely did in the beginning, though. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of interracial in the beginning, but now it's just marriage, I guess. And I think maybe that's a point in itself, is that it's still just marriage, and I still have to put up with the same things that any other wife would have to put up with, and you have to put up with me the same way. And it comes down to ultimately our values and, what we believe in together as a couple.
Yeah. I mean, so for the people out there listening, we've been married since 2010. So right now it's 2018. I don't know when you listen to this, but it'll be 8 years in November. 5th or 6th, one of those.
Oh my God. I'll have to Google that one after.
So it'll be 8 years, and I mean, I guess that's not 30 years. It's not 50 years, but it's still a long time. We have friends who haven't made it this far. Who haven't even made it close to this long. And that said, we've also been through a lot as an interracial couple. Like, we've moved, what?
I think it was like 7 different houses or 7 different living places in the last 8 years, something like that.
Several times.
More than that.
Yeah, several times in North Carolina, 3 or 4. Twice in Chicago, so Aurora and Lisle, and then twice here in Savannah. Well, technically Richmond Hill. So it's just, so that's on top of being an interracial couple, having 2 kids, pharmacy school, real estate agent, plus a whole bunch of other failed tries at starting a business, and some successful at starting a business. So we've been through a lot. So I guess one thing I want to bring up too is, like, coming to the Savannah area, I was always worried about racism here. Yeah, so I was worried about racism in Savannah, and if if we were gonna make it, if we would be ostracized, or like if you wouldn't be able to move up in your position, or if I wouldn't be able to start a business. But I mean, it's not, for me personally, it hasn't been a big deal at all. Like, the South is not. I feel like Chicago and the Midwest and bigger cities are more segregated, even mentally, than than the South now.
Yeah, I think in Chicago, you can go from neighborhood to neighborhood and what neighborhood it is, and then when you get to the city proper, it's definitely mixed, and people come together for work and things like that. But as you're driving through the neighborhoods of Chicago, you can definitely tell what the race is. Mm-hmm. And that's probably true of Savannah, and maybe we just don't notice it. But I don't see that as much in Savannah. I from my perspective, what I see is fairly mixed. Even in our neighborhood, I guess we're in Richmond Hill, we're not Savannah, so that's a caveat. But in our neighborhood, we have a mix here. Yeah, it's not a huge mix, but it's at least some mix. But I think the South has a better way of it being truly mixed and not as clearly defined by neighborhood. And that's not always true. Like, there are definitely neighborhoods in Savannah, right, that are predominantly white or predominantly black or predominantly Hispanic. Right. But I think you have a higher chance, and I have no statistics to back that up. But just from, where we interact, maybe it's our space, the spaces that we occupy in our normal everyday life, is fairly mixed. And I don't see people approach us as interracial, I guess. Yeah. Or, being in an interracial relationship isn't brought up very often, if maybe never. Right. So I remember us having that conversation Like, is this a good idea? Is Savannah specifically a good idea? We were nervous, but they've welcomed us with open arms. And I think it's been good, and I think it's good for our kids to be able to see this type of lifestyle. Yeah,
that's true, and I agree with that. I recently had lunch with a friend. He's a host on the show, Dr. Feel Good, and he was asking me, he was like, how does, like, having interracial conversations, like, how does having a race conversation work with us? And I had to tell him, like, sometimes we have to, sometimes we talk, it's open, but then we just got to step back from it and take a break. Just, if it's something we either don't understand of each other, or if it's something we're just going to butt heads on,
Yeah. Sometimes I like that I can be candid. Mm-hmm. I can say stuff to you that is ignorant. Mm-hmm. And that I have that trust. We have that trust in each other that I'm going to say something ignorant. And it's not coming from a negative place or a bad place. It's coming from a place of, like, I really want to understand. I want to see that other perspective. So I'm going to say something ignorant, but teach me how to, for one, to not say ignorant, and for two, teach me the other side, because I desperately want to see it. Mm-hmm. And I think, like I said earlier, I think that's an advantage for us that we do. We get to have, like, sometimes I guess not often it gets heated, because we both have that understanding of each other that, okay, you said something super ignorant, but I'm gonna let that one not slide, but I'm gonna call it out, but I'm not gonna get heated about it. Right. So for me, I think, I enjoy that, because I get to say what I want to say, and say how I feel. Mm-hmm. And then you get to teach me the other side. So a lot of times it changes how I feel and how I think and how I see. And I don't think other people get that. Mm-hmm. I don't think from either race. I don't think a lot of other black people get that. I don't think a lot of other white people, where you get this truly safe place where I know no matter what I say and how ignorant it might be, at the end of the day, you're going to walk me through it. Right. Safe place. I don't think other people don't get that safe place. You don't even get that with your friends.
Nope. No, that's true. That's true. And you're right. We don't get heated that much. But I know we did around the time when, like, things were really heating up, and well, all throughout history, black men have been getting shot and killed by police. But, like, when it was, like, really in the media hard, and it was just like day after day after day, it seemed like another black man was being shot for just, like, a traffic stop. And you were looking at the shows, and you were seeing how some of the black men were being combative, and you were like, if I was a police officer, I would be, so I wouldn't want to be combative. Like, just listen to me, And I get that too, right? I do get that part. Like, most police officers are putting their lives on the line. There are a lot of good ones out there. I've been pulled over by great ones. I've been pulled over by horrible ones. And it's just, like, you still shouldn't be murdered, even if you're being combative, because you're a police officer. Like, you should be able to handle, if you're not being threatened, somebody's running away from you, you shouldn't try to murder that person.
Yeah. My other piece to that was hard for me to understand is kind of what I said earlier about how it's hard for me to see negative intent. So true racism is hard for me to see. And racism to me, like I said earlier, was when you have hate. Mm-hmm. And you do something because you hate somebody else. So for me, I've always seen officers as people who are have dignity and honor, and we look up to them, and they are the people who hold our country together in terms of making sure we obey the laws and we follow and do what we're supposed to do. And for me to understand that an officer can be racist, right? An actual, not just ignorance. And so this is beyond just ignorance, but that an officer can truly be racist. I I struggled with that, and that's what that conversation was about.
Yeah.
Was that when I see this video and I see, a black man either resisting arrest or not resisting arrest, kind of the same way, like I'm thinking from the officer's perspective, this man is racist. Like it's hard for me to grasp that concept alone, that an officer could be racist. Like the way that I think of an officer, my natural inkling is that this person is the most amazing person that can ever exist. Right? You have one of the most honorable professions, and especially me being a professional, and me working to get everything that I've done and all that I've accomplished. To me, an officer is somebody who has dedicated their life to helping and to saving and to doing good in this world. And so that concept alone was hard for me to grasp, the fact that an officer could be racist. I think in that conversation we did get heated about that. We got super heated because I couldn't wrap my brain around it. It was hard for me to wrap my brain around the fact that this man that I hold, or men, I guess in general, I guess we could throw women in there too, but mostly men, that I hold so high, in such high regard, could be racist or ignorant to the point that he could kill somebody. And that was hard. That was a hard concept, and I dug my feet in hard about it. And I see it a little bit better now. I think I don't still fully see it, but I see it a little bit. I see it much better than I saw it before. But we got heated about that because that concept, I couldn't fathom it.
Yeah, and I clearly the exact opposite. From where I come from, we don't call the cops. You know what I mean? The only people in my neighborhood that call the cops are the little old ladies who are peeking out of the window. You know what I mean? It's not, like you just don't call them because somebody's either gonna get shot, arrested, sent to jail, or you know what I'm saying, something's gonna happen. That's not good for anybody involved. So it's like my last. If we ever had somebody like break into our house, like the last thing I would try to do is call the cops. Like I would try to figure it out myself first. I know that's weird, but I'll try to figure it out myself first. But anyway, we So, and then like you said, that's the good thing about being in a race relationship, because we do have that open space. You can say what you want. It's open, and we can learn from each other. Yeah. Because now I don't really see white privilege like I would have if I wasn't with you, because I've seen how hard you had to work to get where you are. And the only time I see white privilege is when I see like a young white girl crossing the street and there's no crosswalk. You know what I mean? Like that's the most annoying thing. Like it's only white girls,
No, since you said that, I've seen people of other races cross the street. I saw it the other day on 16. Somebody crossed the street. But then I thought to myself, so this is the difference, I think, about being in an interracial relationship. So I saw a young black male cross the street on, maybe it was 5/16. It was 16. It was 5/16. Coming into work. And my first thought was, see? They do it too. But then my second thought, which is a more important thought, was why don't we create, because I see it actually a lot in that little spot right there. My second thought was, why as a society haven't we created a bridge that they can cross the road? Because it happens all the time right there in 5/16. Mm-hmm. So I think, me being married to you, if I wasn't married to you, I don't think I would have had that thought. I would have just been super annoyed. Why you're getting in the middle of the street? Yeah. But I think since I am married to you, my second thought immediately was, this is bad. We should have a way for them to safely cross the street.
That's a good point. That's cool that you think you're solution oriented like that. Maybe we should create some kind of project for it. For 5/16 bridge.
There needs to be a 5/16 bridge right there coming on in right after you get off of Veterans Parkway.
Yeah.
Because people cross the street there a lot.
That's true. Sorry if it seems like we keep taking breaks, but my son keeps coming in and making noise, so we got to kick him out and take a break, then kick him out, and then rock my daughter back to sleep, and then take a break and come back on. So it's a lot of so anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. We are going to start rounding up the show. One Human Nation. We're going to start rounding it up. But I think, Ann, you had one more question for me.
I think my question is, what good things have you seen coming out of being in an interracial relationship?
My credit is sky high right now. That's like one thing that's pretty cool. But amazing credit. I never would have, probably never would have been to the Midwest and seen like what the real Midwest looks like, in my opinion. Or the opposite, like, because your grandparents are from Austin, Minnesota. And in my opinion, that's the real Midwest. It's probably one of the smallest towns you can get. It's in the very bottom corner. And it's just cold most of the year. Mosquitoes the other part of the year. But like, people are just extremely friendly, lovely people. Everybody was, it was just fun. Like, you guys had one of the most amazing 4th of July celebrations I've still ever been to in Austin. I know you weren't born there, so it's not you guys, but so I mean, like, that's something I wouldn't have got before. Like, just that experience of going to small town America, small Midwestern heartland America. I would have always been, Southern America, which is just, it's just different. It's different food, different traditions, cheese curds. I never would have had cheese curds from the Midwest.
For anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's kind of like a mozzarella stick, but with cheddar and little and delicious.
Yeah, I never would have had those. I never would have probably ever really went to Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes. Is that right? That's the right one, right? Yeah. And it's just, so that's one thing. There's a lot of little things like that where just my eyes have been open to white America in ways they wouldn't have been before. I like, genuinely, I believe in the goodness of most people. I believe that the majority of people in the world are good, and that the majority of people in the world just want the same things. Like, most people want to have a good education for their kids. Most people want a good job. Most people want to live somewhere where it's safe to live. That's just what we're all fighting for. And that's something I learned from being married to you and your family.
Yeah, and I think for me, I learned the same. What it's like to live in Southern culture. Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of Southern culture is defined by the Black experience. Mm-hmm. And Black people, not that every Black person is a Southern Black person, but being married to a Southern Black man, really truly experiencing Southern culture, Southern food. Mm-hmm. During the break we said religion, but Southern Black religion is a thing in itself. We said we could have talked an hour about that, but it is. It's its own thing. Yeah. And experiencing that's something I would have never known about. So just getting to experience that is pretty cool. Yeah. So Southern Black culture is pretty cool. And I don't know how many white people get to experience it, but I recommend it. Yeah. It's a cool thing.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, like, young Black Southern men are really like the driving force behind everything cool in the world, because like America is the center of coolness, the center of culture in the world in a lot of ways. And then inside of America, like Atlanta and the South right now are like the center of culture. Like, Black culture is like the center of American culture, if that makes sense. So like, everything that young Black kids are doing is what everybody wants to be a part of because it's cool. And that's kind of how it always has been, in my opinion, like even from like jazz. It started with jazz, and it then went to like bebop, and then it went to rock and roll, and then all this other stuff, the tap dancing, and then now it's rap and hip hop, and that's what every other, Black people kind of lead the way as far as what's cool. From my opinion, maybe you don't believe that. Maybe there's something I'm introducing you to right now, but it's kind of the truth. It's kind of the truth.
I still can't rap. That's something I didn't get from you, Mary.
Me either.
Or dance. I still can't dance.
Me either. Okay. All right. Well, that's our little girl. So that's our alarm clock. Thank you guys for having us today. Once again, it's to Razz, Mr. I'm the host of Savannah Business Showcase. and I'm filling in for Sandy Battise, and I'm here with my lovely, beautiful, strong, brilliant, amazing wife with beautiful eyes, beautiful smile, and who's a great mother, and miss her. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully I'll be able to fill in again for Sandy. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a great week. Goodbye.